most widely spoken language in the world is not English.
The death of a son brings back a mother's lost voice.
A hand leads a police department astray.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, those statements are all true. Can you imagine that? And this is Lindsay McCarry, back with another assortment of odds and ends of out-of-the-way knowledge and news items gleaned from every imaginable source. Until we come back in just a minute and a half to fire our first salvo of Can You Imagine That? Wait around for us, won't you, please? And here's the first Can You Imagine That item for this session. From a newspaper of February 27, 1931, I've dug up what I think is a strange story, and here it is. It was on February 26 of that year that 60-year-old Mrs. Catherine Zenito of Newark, New Jersey, was sitting in her home. For 4 years, Mrs. Zenito had been speechless and was now spending her days in the quiet solitude of her own thoughts. In the next room, Mrs. Zenito knew that her son, Joseph, age 22, was preparing to do what? She didn't know, but she could hear him moving around. Then suddenly she heard...
My boy. My boy. Oh, my boy!
For the first time in 4 years, through the impulse of that sudden gunshot, Mrs. Zenito spoke. Then she collapsed and fell into a deep coma. When she was revived, she had miraculously regained the power of speech. But the tragic potency of the story lies in the fact that the revolver shot which brought back that mother's speech after a lapse of 4 years had been the suicide shot which had caused the death of Joseph, her son. Can you imagine that? What would your guess be as to the most widely spoken language in the world today? Would it be our own, English? Well, if that's your guess, you're wrong. Yes, because there is one other language which is spoken by more persons than the English tongue, Chinese. The Chinese language and its various dialects is spoken by more than 475 million persons, and English is second. English is spoken by nearly 225 million persons, more than half of whom are Americans. By the way, how many actual languages do you think there are in the world today? A recent study of the French Academy lists 2,796 separate and distinct languages spoken on this earth. Can you imagine that? Of course, all of you have used the expression, here's a little pin money for you. Well, I wonder if you know just how the expression pin money originated. You want to know? All right. We'll go back to the 14th century. Go back to the household in which the man and the wife are having a little discussion.
My dear, I simply have to have more money.
More money? More money. My dear wife, has it ever occurred to you that money doesn't grow on bushes?
But, Will, I don't know what became
of course. You don't know what became of the money. I can't understand it. For the past 3 months, you've been running out of the money I give you. What's doing it?
Well, I bought some pins.
Pins? Pins, those inventions of the devil. Stop buying them.
Will, they're so handy. I can use them to hold a seam together. Why, I repaired your jacket only last week with them.
I absolutely forbid you to buy any more pins. They're too expensive. Besides, they're a lazy woman's way of repairing things which are better done by good, honest sewing.
But...
No buts. I absolutely forbid you to buy any more pins.
But the lady did buy more pins because they were so handy. In fact, many of the women of the 1300s found themselves very short of money because they had bought pins. The situation went from bad to worse, and finally a government decree was issued which said,
Hear ye, all ye merchants selling pins. It is hereby forbidden to sell pins to anyone except on the 1st and 2nd of January.
Can you imagine that? But now let's go back to our husband and wife again. The lady is doing something with a little box.
What are you doing there? What is that box?
It's my pin money.
Pin money? What are you talking about?
Well, don't you see? I put a little money aside each day so that on the 1st and 2nd of January I can buy pins. That way I don't miss the few coins I put aside, and I can buy my pins without using the money that should be used for something else. Isn't that clever of me?
Yes, sir, and there you have the origin of the expression pin money. Nowadays, of course, we use it to denote a little extra spending money. Not so long ago, we told you the story of Franz Liszt and the duel fought over him by the Countess d'Agoult and Madame George Sand with fingernails. Well, literature about Franz Liszt seems to be replete with stories, and I've dug one up which I think is very amusing. One day, a young man, rather conceited and sure of himself, went to Liszt with a piece of music he had written. The young man put it in front of Liszt, who said,
My dear young man, this passage right here, what is it?
Why, it is music, Herr Liszt. Music.
Music. But look, the dissonances, the wrong harmonies. That simply isn't done in music. It must not be done.
Ah, Herr Liszt, but I have done it.
Yeah, you have done it. Young man, I am going to show you something. Now, here. Do you see what I have in my hand?
Why, a pen full of ink. Oh, I see. You are going to make corrections in
No.
my composition.
No, I am not going to make corrections in your composition. I'm going to do this, and
Oh,
this, and this.
Oh, Herr Liszt, you are ruining my new waistcoat, my beautiful new waistcoat. Oh.
Yeah, I have ruined it, young man. I splattered ink all over it. That I have done. But it must not be done. Do you understand? Now come along, young man, and I'll buy you a new waistcoat.
And so Franz Liszt bought the young man a new waistcoat, but not before he had taught him a very valuable lesson. Can you imagine that? Some time ago, a man named Will Shakespeare wrote a play called The Comedy of Errors. As a play, it's funny and very good, but it remained for the police of Durham, North Carolina, to write one of their own Comedy of Errors. It was on a day in February 1939 that a desk sergeant of a Durham police station received a telephone call.
Police. Desk sergeant speaking.
My name is Bram. I want to report a theft.
Yes, sir. Just a moment. I'll write it down. All right, Mr. Bram. Go ahead.
I had a ham in an aluminum roaster sitting on the
What
back
was it?
porch. A ham, you know, the kind you make sandwiches out of.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The ham was in a roaster, an aluminum roaster.
Ham in aluminum roaster. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
That's all. Somebody stole it.
A ham in aluminum roaster stolen from your back porch. Well, give me the address, please.
The sergeant made a blotter report, and then...
Calling car 5. Calling car 5.
And this?
Yeah.
Calling car 5. Go to 592 Mansion Street and investigate stolen ham in aluminum roaster from back porch. That is all.
Did you get the address?
Yeah, but what did he say we should get?
A roadster.
Are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
The radio patrol car and others were a little puzzled. They didn't quite get it. Then, at the police station once more...
Police. Desk sergeant speaking.
Hey, Sarge, maybe we're crazy, but we still can't figure out what it was doing there.
Maybe you're crazy. What are you talking about? What can't you figure out got where?
We want to know what a roadster was doing on a back porch.
A roadster on a back porch. Who said anything about that? I said a ham in an aluminum roaster on a back porch was stolen.
Goodbye.
But that wasn't all. Another officer got hold of a somewhat blurred carbon copy of the sergeant's report and said he...
Yeah, we sure get some funny things to cover. Now they got me looking for an aluminum rooster. And anybody knows there ain't such a thing as an aluminum rooster. They just don't come that way.
And so, over the simple report of a stolen ham in an aluminum roaster, the police of Durham, North Carolina, went out hunting for a roadster that was missing from a back porch and a very, very improbable aluminum rooster. Can you imagine that?
Protect the country. Destroy the foreigner.
That was the cry that rang through parts of China during the turn of the century. It was the watchword of a band of rebellious Chinese known as Yi Ho Chuan. Freely translated, the name of the band is Righteous Harmony Fists. And because of the word fists appearing in their title, the uprising came to be known as the Boxer Rebellion. It was under the goading of the doughty and crafty old Empress Dowager Tzu Si that these bands undertook to rid China of what they deemed to be foreign aggression. On the last day of 1899, an English missionary was murdered. And when the foreign powers tried to throw more troops into Peking, the situation was tremendously aggravated, and the Empress Dowager ordered all foreigners killed. Beginning with the murder of the German ambassador, the lives of other ministers, their staffs and families, the lives of Christian missionaries and their families became pawns on the ancient chessboard of Oriental versus Occidental conflict. It was during these arduous times that one group of missionaries gathered at the close of a fearful day under the guidance of Helen Knox Strain.
Please, friends, we must not be afraid.
Afraid? Well, how can we help it? No way to get word out for help. Our friends are being destroyed by scores. None of us know when we'll be next. Perhaps those fiends... Listen. There they are. They're coming for us. They're coming! They're coming for us!
Please be quiet. We must all be calm.
How can we be calm?
Through the grace of God, my friend. Though destruction walk around us, though the arrows past us fly, angel guards from thee surround us. We are safe if thou art nigh. My friends, let us sing that grand old hymn. Through that solace we shall gain strength of spirit.
Savior, breathe an evening blessing, ere repose our spirits seal. Sin and want we come confessing, thou canst save and thou canst heal. Though destruction
Yes, it was through the inspiration of that great evangelical hymn that Helen Knox Strain and her beleaguered colleagues braved the threat of death at the hands of enraged and savage boxers and lived to tell the story. Well, now I'm going to turn you over into the good care of your own announcer until our next session of Can You Imagine That? And until then, this is Lindsay McCarry saying goodbye now.
A good turn brings rich reward for a man 19 years later.
Firefly catching is an industry.
20% of all American motorists escape head-on collisions by 1 second.
Can you imagine that? Well, as usual, those statements are true, and in just a moment or two, my able cast of actors and I are going to be back with you to prove them and others. Wait for us, won't you? Oh, by the way, this is Lindsay McCarry. And here's our first item for this time. Listen.
20% of all American motorists escape head-on collisions by 1 second.
That's an amazing statement, isn't it? But it's true. According to a report made to the American Psychological Association in Columbus, Ohio in 1938, T.W. Forbes and T.M. Matson of Yale University took motion pictures of hundreds of automobiles whose drivers never knew they were being spied upon. These two men were trying to find out just how much time the average motorist allowed while passing a car going in his direction and while another car was coming toward him from the opposite direction. Their motion pictures proved that 1 out of every 5 drivers allowed less than 1 second to get back into his own lane again and avoid a head-on collision. The time between these two bells is 1 second. The next time you attempt to pass another car, please leave yourself more time than that to avoid the horror of a major accident, won't you? Remember the wise old saying,
"A stitch in time saves 9."
And do you remember, too, the wisdom of another ancient philosopher?
Good deeds are like the seed that is sown in the spring. At first there is naught to show above the earth, but at the harvest the golden grain brings rich reward to him who has sown.
Of course, he meant that sooner or later a good deed is bound to bring to its doer the good fortune he deserves. And the proof lies in this little story that comes from a newspaper of August 18th, 1919. It was on the afternoon of August 17 in that year that Patrolman Francis Cadell of the 1st Precinct was on duty in the information booth at the Manhattan end of the Brooklyn Bridge. Car after car passed over the bridge, and no one wanted information until...
I guess everybody knows where they're going. Nobody sees... I guess I was wrong. There's somebody now. The big car, too. Be back in a minute, Ed. Yes, sir? What can I do for you?
I want to know how to get to Coney Island.
Coney Island? Well, sir, you...
Yes?
Excuse me, sir, but I thought I'd seen you someplace before. Guess I was wrong. Now, to get to Coney Island,
Just a minute. I thought I recognized you, too. Have you ever been in California?
California? No, never. I guess we're both wrong. Well, go straight across the bridge and follow the highway. You can't miss it.
Thank you. Goodbye.
You're welcome. Funny. I could swear I know him, Ed. He's backing up. What's the matter? Decided not to go to Coney Island?
Nope, but I've decided where I know you from. We were right when we thought we knew each other.
Is that so?
Now, listen. Weren't you on duty in the Bowery about 15 or 20 years ago? In 1902, to be exact.
Yeah, Holy smoke. Say, you're not...
I am, sure I am. Remember, I was down and out. My clothes were in rags.
Sure, you were plenty hungry.
That's right, and I was broke. You fixed me up with clothes and money and advised me to get back to California, where I'd come from.
And did you?
You bet. I got into the canning business and made a fortune. Oh, I've got you to thank for everything.
Oh, forget it.
Forget it, nothing. You're coming back to California with me. And you're going to have a swell job in my cannery, and I'm not going to take no for an answer.
And did Patrolman Cadell take the job? You just bet he did. And thus, for a good deed performed 19 years before, he reaped a rich reward through chance meeting and being stationed at an information booth on just the right day. Can you imagine that? To those of us who may be fatalists or believe that when our number's up we go, here's an item that seems to prove it. Prove it with stark tragedy. It was early in the year 1939 that Michael McCabe, 42 years old of Chicago, set out one morning to go to his job. Now, that isn't startling. It's just commonplace. Everyday routine for most of us. But suddenly, Michael McCabe stopped and snapped his fingers first in disgust. Then a slow smile must have spread over his face in amusement at his forgetfulness as he remembered he was going to work on his day off. Just a bit foolish, he thought, but what difference does that make? He could work today and take the day off later in the week. So He walked onward. Then he arrived at work at a fuel company.
Hey, Mike, what you doing here today? Ain't it your day off?
Yeah, but I forgot. It don't make any difference anyway, because I can take a day off later on.
Okay, one day's as good as the other, huh?
Sure.
So Michael McCabe worked on. Then suddenly,
Hey, Jim, hand me the wrench, will you? I got to
Mike!
fix this.
Mike! Look out! Look out! That conveyor!
yes, on the day that was supposed to be a holiday for Michael McCabe, he went to work. On that day, a portable steel conveyor fell and crushed Michael McCabe to death. I wonder if it would have fallen in the same spot the next day. Here's a strange sort of industry I found the other day, firefly catching. Yes, indeed, it's a fact that in Japan and China, fireflies are captured for commercial purposes. One purpose is the manufacture of medicines, poultices, pills, and various drugs peculiar to the practice of the medical profession in the Orient. Another use is for the manufacture of Hotaru no Abura, which is really firefly grease. This substance is applied to articles made of bent bamboo, and it has been found to impart rigidity to the bamboo. The principal center for firefly catching is around Ishiyama, Japan, near the Lake of Omi. A number of merchants there employ from 60 to 70 firefly catchers, and during the summer season, expert catchers have been known to catch as many as 3,000 of the phosphorescent insects in one night. Can you imagine that? Now, the musical portion of this Can You Imagine That will bring back fond memories to those who hearken back to the years 1912 and 15. For it was in those years that the Castles, Vernon and Irene, were the dancing sensations. Bostanabe's restaurant in New York was the mecca for those who liked to sway to the seductive and languorous rhythms of the tango. Not only was Bostanabe's famed for its orchestra, for its cuisine, but it was later to be famous as the place where a young man named Rudolph Valentino got his start. It was in those days that a number called Tres Moutard, in English, Too Much Mustard, was sweeping the country. People were dancing the turkey trot to it, the bunny hug, and the Gotham gobble. It was in the famous old Bostanabe's restaurant in New York's 39th Street near 6th Avenue that music publisher Edward B. Marks noted the fine sense of rhythm and natural gift of music possessed by the young Hungarian pianist of the orchestra. Now, Tres Moutard was selling plenty of copies, and the Marks firm had no tune to match it. So Edward B. Marks approached the young pianist and asked, "Excuse me, but did you ever compose anything?"
Why, no, I've never composed anything in this country.
Oh, I see. Have you ever heard of a turkey trot called Tres Moutard?
Tres Moutard? Why, no.
Well, it's sweeping the country, and I want a tune like it. Do you think you can write one?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I can.
All right, I'll tell you. Here's my card. You come to our offices in a day or so, and maybe we can get together on something. How about it?
Well, all right, I'll do it.
True to his word, the young pianist showed up at the offices of the Marks firm. Once there, Marks's partner, Joseph W. Stern, sat down with the young man and...
Now, look. Here's the construction of the turkey trot. I'll run through it for you, and you can see how it's built. Listen. That's enough. Now, do you think you can write one something like it?
Yeah, a turkey trot that we can sell. You think you can do it?
Well, yes, I think I can.
Good.
Yeah, that's fine. Get right to work on it, because we want it, and we want it quick. So the young man set to work, and he composed not one, but two turkey trots. One was called Some Smoke, and the other Leg of Mutton. These two compositions were even given French titles in order to follow in the wake of popularity of Tres Moutard. But the titles aren't nearly as important as the name of the young Hungarian composer which appeared on the sheet music. That name was later to become famous as belonging to the musical genius who composed more than 60 successful light operas. And that name, Sigmund Romberg. Can you imagine that? And now we're going to ask our orchestra to play the French importation, which was responsible for the discovery of Romberg by Edward Marks and Joseph Stern. Here it is, a modernized version of the famous old turkey trot, Tres Moutard. that up-to-date version of Trey Mutard, which set the country wriggling and squirming in turkey trots and bunny hugs, which gave Sigmund Romberg his first real recognition, I'm going to turn you back to your own station announcer. And until the next time we meet, this is Lindsay McCarry saying goodbye now.